Sometimes when things go wrong, you can't blame life. Cause when you shot your shot, what was your aim like? What were you targeting? Cause if it ain't right, and you still go with it, then that is on you. It's on you, it's on you, it's on you.
What's going on, you guys? This is Romi and Sam here, and you are listening to the Mindset Rebooted podcast.
And if you are a first-time listener, thank you so much for stopping by. Here on the Mindset Rebooted podcast, we like to have conversations that help us to elevate the way we think. And what that means is that we have old ways of thinking that have held us back in the past, and we like to take on new ways of thinking so that we can maximize our full potential and become the best versions of ourselves. That is exactly what we're doing here, and we're so glad that you chose to rock out with us. And today, we are talking about knowing what you're getting into, right? Just know what you're getting into before you commit to it, right? So a lot of times we end up getting into things and, we don't know what we're getting into. And because we have maybe unrealistic expectations when we get into these things, we experience disappointment when things don't go the way that we wanted them to go or that we thought they would go. Not that they should have gone, but that we thought that they should have gone, right? Because that's what disappointment is. It's when your expectations are not being met. And so for us, we realized, hey, when we started our podcast back in October 2019, we were like, oh man, like we're just gonna go. But we did realize, hey, most podcasts will fail within their first year. Businesses alike fail in the first year, things like that. Or I might have had those numbers wrong. Most podcasts fail in their first year. Is that what it was?
Yeah, most podcasts fail within the first year. Usually they don't even get to their 6-month mark, from what I know.
Right.
And then in terms of the business side, about 30% fail within the first 2 years. About 50% fail within the first 5 years.
Exactly. So all around all of these different things,
according to Small Business
exactly.
I got a quote where I'm getting all the info.
Yeah, quote where you're getting your info from, right? The point is, when you see that, right, it can be discouraging, right? If you're not really sure of what you're getting into. I mean, we've touched upon this in the past that, hey, a lot of times you see these numbers, you see the data, but you have to now inform yourself as to why those things actually exist. A lot of people, maybe they didn't realize all that it would take to continue to keep things going, or whatever the case was. Maybe they just said, you know what, I don't have my listenership up to the numbers that I want it to be at, and so you know what, I give up. That's it. And so that's where you see a lot of these people start to fail and fall off. But what we're living proof of, and what we're here to talk to you about today, is that when you know what you're getting into beforehand, you understand these numbers, you don't let it discourage you, you let it inform you. What does that mean? It means that we knew that if we kept getting at it, if we just kept going and going and going, we were already determined that we would make adjustments along the way and stay consistent, because we're committed to helping others, inspiring others, and helping each other to elevate the way we think. That's what we're committed to, the mission. And so once you're committed to that, you know that it may take some time, but eventually you're going to get to where you need to get to. And so that's where you have to know what you're getting into. That way you can beat the statistics and you can stay encouraged along the journey.
Yes, and we mentioned before, like, the reason in previous, like, I don't know how far past, in previous podcasts where we kind of learned and studied what successful people are doing, or in this instance, successful podcasts are doing, and we kind of emulate what they do, right? We find the key performing indexes that they have, that they utilize, and we kind of apply that to ourselves. So the example of where most podcasts don't even reach the first 6 months, that's usually because people don't really know what they're getting into when they start a podcast. They just think it's fun. They think it's cool and that they'll get a whole bunch of viewers or listeners immediately, whereas they haven't even thought about, well, how frequent are they posting? How consistent are they posting? And where are they marketing their podcast? How are people discovering it and stuff like that? And we've had those discussions over the course of time, and we've done our observed periods of time where we try something and we see how that works out. And so it's one of those things is you kind of use emotion to start something, but you have to get unemotional to have a sustainability aspect to it.
Yeah, completely. The emotions is what kind of ruins it, right? Because I mean, we've heard that analogy. It's not personal, it's business, things like that, right? And It's used oftentimes. Some people use it in a shady way, but other times, like if you're really going based on the true meaning of it, it's really just saying remove the emotion from the decisions that you're supposed to be making in this aspect, because the emotion will cloud your judgment and it will make you underperform or call it quits way before you're supposed to. And when you are emotional, right, because it's clouding your judgment, you might think that, oh yeah, what's the use? And that's where you start to get into the, oh man, like the numbers are against me, or this, that, and the third. And really, that's not the case at all. Really, the situation is that if I remove the emotions and I just look at the situation for what it is, and I continue to keep at it because it really is bound to happen eventually, that's when you start to get better results.
Better and long-lasting results. If I pivot this into the fitness world, a lot of people who are trying to lose weight, they get, obviously they're inspired, they're motivated, they get inspired because they have friends who are killing it, they want to be like that, and so that inspiration motivates them to show up and maybe sign up for a gym membership, even personal training or a coach, right? Now the thing is, a lot of times the reason that they fail in their path to losing weight is because they never properly set expectations correctly, or their coach never set the expectation properly, because as usual, we all, for some reason, we believe we will reach success immediately. Mm-hmm. We will lose weight, X amount of weight immediately. We will gain X amount of viewers and listeners immediately. We will make X amount of money immediately. Whereas that is an unrealistic expectation, like you mentioned. Because why are these goals being set up that way when we have no data, no track record, no metrics to even be able to project that?
Right.
There is no history of us having those numbers before, so why are we projecting that? Why are we, like, I think a lot of people, they just see someone who has it,
right,
and they're like, oh yeah, that's gonna be me quick,
right?
When in actuality, that person who has what you want has put in consistent work and effort over a long period of time. You're only seeing them now, but you're not seeing them where they've done the work, where they've suffered through the lack of motivation, suffered through the soreness of physical soreness, the mental burnout. They went through all that, and you're only seeing them in their glory.
Yeah, absolutely. You're only seeing them in their glory. And what I will say is this concerning that is those people that you haven't seen their pain, you can still learn from it, because a lot of times they share their stories if you're willing to listen, right? Rather than you putting your focus on where they're at now. If you're willing to listen to the stories that they've shared about their journey along the way, what you'll find is that you may not necessarily have to go through all the things that they went through. You can literally learn from their experiences, which would help you speed up your timeline. Mm-hmm. But that requires a sober way of thinking that says, okay, this may not happen overnight, but the way I can get better and make things more sustainable is for me to learn from all of the information that is already out there, rather than me trying to just test the waters, or me just having unrealistic expectations, just like, that's it, I'm going for it. It's a fool's errand to do that. What you gotta do is be committed to doing the work, to learning as much as you can, and to staying the course. That's what's gonna get you the long-term sustainable results that you're looking for, so that you can be successful in the way that you want to be successful.
And a lot of this long-term thing, it's dependent on, it's almost like a numbers game. The more you say if you're losing weight, the more that you are actively, how many days are you exercising? How many days are you eating according to whatever your eating diet is, or whatever your plan is? How often are you hitting those metrics? And the more you hit those, the more you'll start seeing results in the future. However, you need to have a big time horizon. You need to have a set of time to observe the science. Now, the metrics that you're putting in, like, okay, 4 days a week, I am working out, and I'm observing my results after 8 weeks. So 4 days times 8 weeks equals 36 days. So I've put in 36 days of work. On those 36 days, I'm also on top of my eating habits. So what results am I getting? Am I starting to see that downward trend of weight that I want to see? If not, what should I change? How do I improve? And that's how it should be. We need to understand we need time to gather data to be able to make logical adjustments. And so that when we're lacking motivation, when we're like, fuck, I'm tired, I'm so sore, I don't feel like going, I'm not really seeing the results I want, we understand that there's a science and a logical method into why we're doing what we're doing.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And the fact that you just broke down like, hey, this many hours, if I do this and do this, that's you doing your due diligence to be able to set realistic expectations. Like, for example, I personally wanted to see how much money I was going to save for a certain investment, right? And so what I did was, in a very practical way, I created a spreadsheet. I ended up listing all of my different expenses. I listed all of my different streams of income, what I was projected to have coming in. I literally averaged out what I was going to be banking every single month, and I let these formulas work for me. And then I looked at what was taking away from certain things that I wanted, and I said, okay, how can I now cut back on this, and how can I now add to this and do this? And when I was doing all of that, it was actually encouraging me because it was giving me confidence moving forward. I wasn't just shooting my shot aimlessly. I actually had a clear direction to walk into. And so I essentially knew what I was getting into by looking at the details and doing that work beforehand. That's what gets you through the rainy days, where you're able to say, oh, well, this is just a temporary thing because I already accounted for this.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea, is that I need to account for all of these different things along the way. There's going to be times where things don't go completely right? There's going to be times where things go great, but you need to understand that that's all a part of the journey. And once you do, you'll be fine.
And with you setting up those Excel sheets and stuff like that to be able to project, to be able to see and budget, it's also, I have a feeling you planned it. You don't have like, all right, this is a 1 year goal, 2 year goal. It was like, it sounds like, it's like, this is my life goal. I have all this time to grow this pot of money, this pot of different sources of income, right? And I think that's how everyone should be thinking about whatever it is that they want to accomplish. Don't set short-term goals for no specific reason. Like, think in long-term goal. I think in Japan, I saw an article, and some of the oldest companies there, to them, a short period of time is minimum 20 years as a company. And that's, I think, one of the oldest companies in Japan. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I saw. They're thinking in terms of 20 years. Or if you see interviews with the families who own their own vineyards, they're thinking multi-generational. They're thinking 100 years from now, what is our vineyard going to be doing? What other aspects of business are we doing? And because they're thinking in a long-term period of time, they're accounting for collecting so much data that it's almost unrealistic for them to fail, because they have so much data to point them in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I will say this, though. I think that it is absolutely relative what you're saying, because like the 20 years being short term in that situation, that's because if they're thinking about it on that business scale, maybe long term would be like the 100, 150, 200, years. But in our lifetime, and that would mean that they're thinking about along the lines of, okay, this is going to last longer than my lifetime.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so I do think that it depends on the situation, right? Like short-term goals, I think, are acceptable in many cases en route to a long-term goal. And the reason why is because you do need to be able to have small victories to celebrate.
Yes.
Right? And when you have those small victories that you're able to celebrate, it encourages you to stay the course. So I do set up little milestones along the way to my big goal, right? And maybe that looks like, I don't know if it looks like I'll treat myself to something here or whatever the case is. Whatever the situation is, I will do that because I need to reinforce the positive habits, the good habits that I'm currently exhibiting, right? And so that's something that I think is very key along the way.
Yeah, so that's I guess that's the dichotomy, right? So be unemotional about your long-term actions, but be emotional about your short-term things. Or maybe I'm saying it a bit weird, but I definitely do believe you have to celebrate your wins, reminding yourself why you're doing these things. But at the same time, it's almost like you have to always have a bigger goal ready to go, so that you'll continue to grow or you'll continue to improve. And another thing on this whole like numbers thing that we were mentioning earlier. It's like whenever you try something brand new, you're gonna start off not really having any metrics of success. You're not gonna be good, and that's why we need time to collect data. It's almost as if we want to play scientist to our own life. Mm-hmm. We want to have a period of observed science to be able to kind of, okay, this is what's happening. This is the actions, the measurable actions I've taken in this period of time, and this is the results. Now, how do I adjust that results to go towards the direction I want, the success, right? But this all goes back to the very beginning, knowing what you're getting into. If you think that you could do this within a short period of time, that might not be the right answer for you. You have to kind of, I feel you have to get unemotional about your life as well. It's been weird for me personally thinking about that. Like, Romi, you want all these things, but let's look at it as a statistical, mathematical thing. What are the chances of you being the top 1% of in the U.S. in terms of financial income? I think that's about $400,000 a year or something like that.
I think that might be like top 1%.
That's top 1%.
I haven't looked at the numbers, but I think so.
So like this is for my own financial literacy, because on TV, on social media, to me, I'm like, yeah, millionaire. That's all I see. I'm like, okay, I should be a millionaire. But how many people on a percentage of the U.S. population are actually millionaires, right? And then what does that mean? Is that a million liquid, as in you have access to that in cash, or is that million net worth? And understanding that, okay, these different goals that we have, what are the realistic timelines to be able to achieve those, and what methods have longer timelines or shorter timelines? And by identifying those methods, then that's how I know this is what I'm committing to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you made like a lot of points. I want to be able to respond to different ones, because I think that you made some good points to touch on. But what I will say is, as far as like realistic timelines, I will say that you have a hand to play in what's realistic, right? So like, if right now the probability of me doing something is 1 in 100, right? And let's just say I need 10 of them, like right now, that means I need to do 1,000, right? Like, if I just say, oh, well, I'm just going to stay at the rate of doing the 1 in 100, well, then that means that I'm only going to get that result every however long, after 100 attempts.
Yeah, so let's apply it with practical terms, right? So if you're a salesperson, out of 100 phone calls you take, one of them actually buys your product. What you're saying is you have to have at least 1,000 phone calls in order to get that 10 customers who actually buy.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying in that example, right?
Exactly. That's a real good life example, right? And so whatever your goal is, that should dictate the level of energy that you exert, how you put forth your efforts. That should dictate it. Much like that, or your convictions should dictate your emotions, rather than your emotions dictating your convictions or how you go about things. That's the way I would frame it, because what we don't realize oftentimes is that our emotions are based on our thoughts, right? Like, if I think a certain way, I now feel a certain way oftentimes, because I'm making myself think about that and I'm getting an emotional response. So what I need to do is change the way I'm thinking about something. If I see my goal, rather than me seeing it as this is impossible, I need to be thinking, well, what is it that I need to do or adjust in my behavior to get myself to that end goal? So if I am saying in the example, that you said top 1%, whatever, if it's 400,000 a year or if it's $1 million, whatever it is, if that is my goal, I should be thinking about, well, what do I need to do to get there? How do I get there? Rather than me saying, oh man, that's just so hard, or, maybe that's just not really possible because the odds are not really there in my favor. No, the odds are just numbers based on what is. It doesn't tell you the story of what people are doing to get these results. It's just telling you the results. So that's where you have to know what you're getting into. I need to dive into the details. I need to get a real grasp of what it takes. And then I need to decide if I'm willing to commit to that so that I can then get to that goal. Is that really your goal? That's what you have to decide. How bad do you want it? If that is really your goal, you will do what is necessary to get there. But you have to first understand what is necessary to get there.
I like that. And it's understanding what is necessary to get there. That is your, that's like your compass. That's your field tactical manual. This is what you just got to do every day. This is like, if your goal is $400,000 a year, so that's in 12 months, divide $400,000 by 12, and then go from the monthly goals into weekly goals and then into daily goals. And now you're like, okay, every day I have to make X amount of dollars. That becomes those mini milestones. Like, yes, I got it. We're succeeding as we go towards these bigger goals. And maybe you are the salesman who's only converting 1% of the 100 phone calls. And if that is your success rate, and that is your reliable success rate, meaning that 3 months out of the 3 consecutive months, you are at a 1% conversion rate, then we could make that a predictable income now.
Yes.
We're able to be like, all right, I predict that Romi in the course of 3 months will always have 10 sales per month because that's his track record. And then maybe to speed or expedite things up for you, you're like, okay, I've been selling 1% out of 100 phone calls. How do I get to 2%? How can I improve myself? How do I look at myself unemotionally and look at the different habits I have, the different things that I'm doing every day? How do I talk with people? How do I know that the product I'm selling is helping people, right? And so now it becomes the compass has gotten more detail oriented. It's like, hey, you got to walk 100 yards that way. There's going to be a bit of a dip 50 yards from there. Watch out, because that's going to trip you over. Now it's like I have a cheat code almost. Right. As I get more unemotional with myself to get to the next level.
Absolutely. Right. And like you said, if you have a reliable success rate, right, that means that if I continue to do what I'm doing, I'm going to continue to get those same results. And if I don't change the way I am at all, and I want to double up what I'm doing, I would literally have to double the effort of what I'm already doing. But to be able to get to someplace faster and to speed up the timeline like we all want to do, that's where, like you were saying, learning, right, adapting, being unemotional about it will allow for you to now change your odds from getting 1 in 100 to now 1 in 50 to now 1 in 20. It's really about you. How can I change myself internally so that I can then change the external result, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like I personally, like if I was to take a glass of water and I was to pour it into another empty glass, what's gonna be there, the contents of it is going to be water. If I was to take orange juice and I pour it in an empty glass, it's gonna be orange juice. So what does that mean? In order for me to change what's on the other side, I have to first change what's going on in me. That's the whole point of it.
If nothing changes, then nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
Yeah, dude, that's one of my favorite sayings right now.
Yeah.
That ain't get shit done. GSD, baby. Those are my two favorite words right now. And yes, that is it. It's nothing changes, then nothing will change. And so, like on a like lifestyle, like, because I know we've been talking about sales almost because that's our example, but on whatever personal goal you have or lifestyle goal you have, like I used to look at real people who are living similar age to me, and they have the lifestyle I want, and I'm like, okay, that is my end goal. What habits, or if that's my end goal, what do I have to do every month to be more like that? What am I doing? All right. Am I working out? Am I in fitness? Am I socializing? Am I doing these deals? Am I doing these podcasts, posting on social media? Like what? And everything becomes like, it almost becomes like a checklist. Yeah. And as the checklist gets bigger and bigger, I improve more. And then what happens is some other person's going to be inspired by me. They're like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And then it's just like, I could tell you everything I'm going to do, but sometimes I have to be like, I have to qualify you first. If you're asking for help from me, I need to qualify you in the sense that, are you really going to be doing the work? Do you know what you're asking for, because you might be thinking it's easy, again, the unrealistic expectation that my glory will be easily transferred to you when I've been working hard as hell for it. Right. So it's not just you, it's everybody. We need to all remind each other, what are you getting into, man? What is it you want? Why is it you want it? And get deeper as well.
No, that's a great point. What I get from that is, don't compare yourself to anybody, right? I mean, if you're gonna compare work ethic, compare what am I doing, you know what I mean, to match that same level. Because, you know, if you looking at these people, I know you've said this in times past, which was, it's disrespectful to be like, it must be nice, you know. It
is, because it isn't. Like, it's not nice. Again, you only see people in their glory. You don't see what crap they're going behind closed doors. You really don't.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, if you ask for my help, I almost have to qualify you in order for me to actually tell you all the things I do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm like, is it worth my time to give you advice on how to improve your life?
Right.
It becomes one of those.
Exactly.
And then, because usually if you're improving your life, I kind of want you around my circle. I want to be around your energy because I want to keep improving. You're going to motivate me. But if I keep talking to people who I invest time in and they're not really doing anything with it, it kind of demoralizes you. And so that's the emotional aspect, because I'm like, man, like, I'm grinding. I'm doing all these things that I said I got to do. But like people aren't even doing it for themselves. Why should I keep doing it? So that's where it's also, I got to audit my circle, make sure everyone who's in it are giving me that energy to want to keep moving forward, or not even giving me the energy, because, you know, it's all internal. I have to be wanting to change, right? It starts internally, but the people around me are just random reminders that, hey, Romi, you're still in control of what you want to do. You're still the author to your story. So let's get going, bro. Like, where do you want to go with this book that you're writing?
Yeah. And if I could just bring it all full circle, what we started talking about throughout this conversation is, know what you're getting into before you commit to it, right? Understand what it all entails so that you can do the work, right? Don't be discouraged and let emotions get into it. If you do the work and understand that it's bound to happen as long as you do X, Y, Z, then you're more encouraged to stay the course, right? That's what we're talking about. And we're also talking about, hey, don't compare yourself to anybody else until you first match that same level of effort. Right? You have to be able to put in that work to get to where you want to get to, and order your circle, like we always say, because who you have around you will influence you. And we always want to keep getting better and better. And that's what it's all about. I don't think I have anything else to add to this conversation, man. I don't
either. I think we hit this really hard, and I think we went all over the place with it in terms of getting into knowing what you're getting into. It's like a weird holistic approach almost, man. And I got nothing else to say.
Well, hey, if you got value out of this content, make sure you smash that subscribe button, right? Make sure you follow the Mindset Rebooted podcast on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook as well. You can follow me personally on Instagram at hey.hey, on LinkedIn at Samuel-Hey, and also on Facebook, Sam One Time Real Smooth Hey. So very, very complicated. Romi Sunga makes it simple for you. He's Romi Sunga on all social media platforms.
You know what I'm going to do moving forward?
What?
Everything's just listed. You don't even have to say any of that anymore.
I'm
just listing it in all the content captions.
Well, you know what? Make sure you look in the captions and find all of the handles and all that good stuff. Either case, we want to hear from you. Give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. Let us know what you think. And make sure you share this with somebody else. And until next time, Mindset Rebooted.
Sometimes when things go wrong, you can't blame life. Cause when you shot your shot, what was your aim like? What were you targeting? Cause if it ain't right, and you still go with it, then that is on you.